Confucius once said, "We all have two lives. The second one starts when you realize you only have one." When and why did your second life begin? Story 1 last week, a coworker had a gigantic heart attack and instantly died right there in the cafeteria. I didn't know him, so while it was a horrible thing to witness, he'll eventually get over it. What shook me more was the fact he was only in his early 20s, just about younger than me, and wasn't much more overweight than I am. Seeing firsthand how suddenly all my bad decisions can just erase me from existence, and the fact I've had a couple of small chest pains and ignored them in the past, I threw out everything remotely sugary the instant I got home. Edit thanks for those who have recommended seeing a doctor. I had already gotten a general checkup appointment, just to be safe. Story 2, a dear friend got cancer. Out of the blue and bad. We were 29 and both just hitting our strides in life and work. She was dead 18 months later. It absolutely rocked me to my core how fragile life is. Story January 3rd, 2018. I was in Honolulu, Hawaii during the false alarm ballistic missile strike. I called my parents to say goodbye and waited for the impact in the basement of our hotel with my fiancée. It took way too long for them to correct the mistake and let people know it was a false alarm. We were visibly shaken all day, and upon returning I decided then that I would request 3 months off work for my honeymoon instead of 2 weeks, traveled the world, and remembered how important family is compared to work. I still need to remind myself about it every so often, though, because the grind gets to you. Story 4, so 1 week after being told I have prostate cancer at 47, I decided I needed to get fitter and healthier, but honestly, my heart wasn't in it, and I was on the verge of depression. It's 5:40 a.m., and I am idly drinking tea before going to the gym, but I am 50-50 about going back to bed and pretty much giving up on life. Scrolling down Facebook, I see the quote, "A man has two lives, one before he realizes he is mortal and one after." I stared at it like it was a revelation. Something I can't describe lifted in me. I drained my tea and went to the gym. Almost exactly 1 year later, I'm fit officially. I have lost 15 kg, with another 13 to go. In 6 mornings a week, I row a 10K on a Concept 2 rowing machine and go to the gym dong weights once a week. My last scan showed the cancer hasn't changed one bit in a year, and now will be monitored for 2 years to see if it's stable. If I do need to have it removed, I am in the best shape for a successful op. It's no exaggeration to say this quote changed my life. Update, wow. Just wow. I never expected this response. Thank you so much. I try to reply to everybody who asked a question. Thank you for the gold and silver, and thank you for the support. It means a great deal to an old like me. Also, I will never type dong instead of doing ever again. Oh my God. Story 5, when I graduated high school and realized I had no skills, no interesting hobbies, nothing interesting about myself, and that it was no wonder I struggled so much with dating. Spent the last few years changing that. Story 6, 2 years ago, last month, I used meth for the last time. Edit, wow, this blew up. It'll take the time to reply to everyone individually later, but I just want to say thank you to everyone for the kind words and encouragement. I would also like to say that I have a medical marijuana card, so I do not consider myself sober. I am definitely still in recovery. Specifically from amphetamines and alcohol, marijuana and Zoloft are the only drugs I will ever put in my body again. Edit 2, if you or someone you know is in the situation I was in 2 years ago, please DM me if you want to talk. I'm in the process of becoming a substance abuse specialist. This stuff is my passion. Story 7, mine isn't intense as some of these other stories, but here it goes. I played guitar for the last 5 years, and it has become one of my biggest passions. 6 weeks ago, I lost my footing while climbing a platform, and I'm fairly certain I have permanent tendon damage in my left hand. It didn't sink in what exactly had happened until I was in my car after the doctor's appointment. I would now spend more of my life with this faulty left hand than when it was fine. This is now the rest of my one life. Passion's gone, zero activity in my life, because I'm afraid of everything, and slightly more useless than before. I miss the ignorance. Edit, I always forget how supportive the people on this site can be. Thank you, everyone. A lot of people recommend learning lefty, enough so that I will give it a try. The knowledge is there, I just need to get my hands to catch up. Thank you all again. Story 8, it was a really low point in my life. I didn't think things could get worse, so many things going wrong, and so many bad choices being made. I was at a point where ending it all was the only option I could see. Upon cutting into my wrist, everything was clear. It could be worse, and it will be. But I don't want to die. 56 internal stitches, 15 external, and I'm still here. Things did get worse, but then they got amazing. Edit, as much as I'm nowhere near as dark as this point in my life, I've been going 10 rounds in a ring with life over the last few months. All the messages and support you have all sent has really lifted me. Thank you. Story 9, I had a conversation with my dad about winning the lottery. He asked me if I would go to film school if money wasn't an issue. I, of course, answered affirmatively. He told me to go for it, so I did. Here I am, my first semester as a film student. living the life I want, a life is good RN, and not making compromises. Story 10, when one of my best friends and his sister were murdered by his dad at 16, made me realize how precious life is and that I should be always grateful for what I have. It also wrecked my best friend's life forever, and he will never be the same. Story 11, I got psychological help. I used to think that life just sucked for everyone, and the trick was to fake your way through it. That faking was what I thought other people's happiness was. From puberty till after my 40th, I lived where every moment of happiness was weighed down by an ever-present depression and lack of self-esteem. I know this is small compared to what most people go through in life, and that's exactly the mentality that kept me from getting help. Took a bit, but after talking with a counselor once a week for a few months, being referred to a psychiatrist with initial diagnosis, and working with my psychiatrist to find medicines that work, I finally feel what I can only assume is normal. I wake up most days with an underlying happiness that's never been there before. Moments with my kids are not darkened by thoughts that I don't deserve them or that they wouldn't love me if they knew me. Don't be like me. Even if your mountain seems small compared to your view of the mountain others are climbing, that doesn't mean you couldn't use some help finding the right path. To quote an old man from my childhood, it's dangerous out there, thank for the gold. I truly hope that whatever type of help will lead to a better life for you, that you all get a chance to get it. Life can get better. Baby steps. I am sailing. Story 12, I suppose, when I turned 20. Prior to that, I had never thought past that age. Spent a long time stuck in a now-what phase trying to not have an existential crisis. Eventually went to college, got a degree, and now work in the field I studied for, battled depression and won, and found some of the things I was looking for in life. Starting to figure out what I want from life and what it's going to take to get there. So I guess I started my second life when I got out of my age 20 funk. Story 13-9, got my first migraine. Slowly realized my life was going to hurt going forward no matter what, so enjoy the moment you're physically able to. Edit my condolences to everyone else also suffering with migraines and daily headaches. Smile while you can. Tomorrow might be worse. Story 14, when I quit my job 5 years ago and biked across the country. The second I finished, I realized that I was forever going to look at life differently. I've been working an absolutely horrendous job. High stress, low pay, terrible hours. All because I needed the experience it gave me for my career. At some point, I realized I don't have to be this miserable. Rage quit, bought a bicycle, and cycled across the continental U.S. for 2 months, found my center and my confidence, and started treating myself better. Met some of the most interesting, most crazy, and most honorable people along the way. Best decision I ever made, and I still treat myself with the respect I feel I deserve. Edit real quick edit to share a few more details, since many are interested. This is not the complete blog because I just didn't care to keep it up after a while. It does, however, share my prep and first few weeks on the road. I can't remember if my blog covered the financial side of it. But over the course of just under a year, I had saved up about $5,000 to pull off the trip, or pets at the time. I rented a room out of my dad's place during the shitty job. So cost of living was reasonable and not totally crazy. I was a crisis counselor, so while I say the original comment that the pay that is relative, I wasn't making min wage, but what I was doing for the job didn't equal the pay I got in return. Above all, I was resourceful, as during the trip, I went to cities where I knew people. I told my story to a lot of folks. Lots of strangers along the way gave me a gift card or a tenner or anything to help me along. Ever flirt with a motel desk clerk for a free room? It takes a lot of creativity to pull it off low cost, but it was worth every challenge. Story 15, a few months ago, my mother fell down the stairs at 2 a.m. We were home alone, and she wasn't responding. I called 112, and an ambulance came. She's fine now, but the thought of losing her shook me so much that I decided to throw my life around. I only have one and need to do as much as possible with it. I came out as by starting eating healthier and focused on school a lot more. Life has been going a lot better since then. Story 16, I had a woodworking accident just over 2 years ago. Wasn't huge. I lost my left index finger, but it kind of punched me in the gut. Makes you realize you aren't invincible. Story 17, I was 23 in October 2011. Got fired from my store manager position at GameStop on May 2nd, 2011. Then my son was born on May 15th, 2011 to a girl. I got pregnant 3 months into the relationship. My friends I rented a house with didn't want to live with a kid, so they all agreed to end the lease, and I had to move back home with my dad, girlfriend, and new baby in tow. With no degree and severely overestimating how impressive being a retail general manager is, I had taken a job working swing shift at a bindery, putting inserts into magazines, and just had completely shut down emotionally and was going through the motions. One night around 2 a.m., I got really angry at myself and overwhelmed with despair on my son's behalf. I looked at him sleeping in his ratty pack and play and thought of his Christmases, his birthdays, his field trips, a collection of future memories where I would disappoint him and he'd never have a life he would deserve because of this piece of father who just couldn't do anything right. It wasn't fair to him. Something just clicked, and I was determined to do something. I had a few customers who had recommended I apply FOT, a local insurance company that had a call center in the area. I applied for several positions they had open and just put my all in my resume and cover letter and went to bed, feeling like this would be a turning point. I got a job in sales, got a shitty apartment, then a nice one, got a job in claims, bought a house. 10 years later, I'm still with a woman. I got pregnant 3 months into dating and honestly cannot believe how lucky I am. My kid's girl came in 2012, are spoiled, and while we aren't wealthy, we aren't living in my bedroom at my dad's house, and ID say we're solidly lower middle class. My son completely changed our lives that night, and whenever I get discouraged, I look at him and remember that even an up like me can get stuff done when the chips are down, and we've managed to survive every potentially derailing disaster since. Story 18, meeting the woman who would become my wife. I had been in numerous crappy relationships, mostly because I was childish, lazy, and selfish and was thoroughly unemployed with only a GED to my name. I had been taking classes at our local community college, but had no specific goal. I was used to ex-girlfriends telling me to get a job and grow up. But this woman was different. She pushed me, but in a loving way, she challenged me to be my best. We got married right after I got my master's degree. Absolutely none of what I have achieved would have happened without her, and I am thankful and grateful for this second life. Edit okay. I guess people want to know what she did, lol. Well, we have been together for 7 years, almost 8. It's a lot of give and take, but we also just fit together. I love cooking, and she loves cleaning. A lot of the way that she pushed me was just to encourage me. Instead of saying, I don't know if you'll be able to do thing I want to do, or that's stupid, I don't think you should do thing I'd like to do, she would say, do it, it'll support you no matter the outcome. She celebrated new when I succeeded and held me when I failed. We have always supported each other's happiness, but kept it realistic. When I was stressed out about grad school, she would tell me to take a day for myself and relax, or go fishing. I hope this helps. I don't know how else to explain it, lol. Story 19, in less than 3 months, got divorced, got fired from work, lost a grandparent and a parent, and I have 2 small kids, going on the 4th month, and I put in over 200 applications, only nibbles and no job offers from reputable places. Did have someone set up a fake interview as an attempt for trafficking, so please be care of that, people. My second life is starting between everything, now and near future. Just have to find all the puzzle pieces. Story 20, when I lost a wife and daughter. The first few months, I don't even remember, but I do remember when I started to heal. It was a long road, but once I set my sights on going back to school to become a lawyer, I really began to start to heal. This Friday, I will be sworn in as an attorney. Story 21, 2 months ago, one of my best friends almost died during our trip to Tokyo. He is 24 years old, and during the trip, he found out he had diabetes type 1 the hard way, which he probably had for the entirety of his life, but he just didn't know it. He just collapsed in our apartment, and I remember getting a call from my friend who went with him in the ambulance telling us, guys, you need to come to this hospital ASAP, because he is dying right here, right now. Luckily, he survived, and he is currently in a hospital here in the Netherlands waiting for a new kidney. That trip taught me so much about how precious life is and how it can end so sudden. For the last 2 months, I've appreciated every moment so much more. I guess being closer to death really makes you feel more alive. Story 22, my sophomore year in high school. A student 2 grades above me committed suicide at 4 a.m. on Monday morning. I came into school hearing people whispering, and I thought it was just high school drama and rumors. First hour started. The teacher walked in, told the class a student had passed away. I thought it was a joke. I knew the name. I knew his sister. I played soccer with her for years. As the day continued, it became more and more apparent that he was really gone. The whole school's atmosphere changed. People that didn't even know him were crying in the halls. Kids I hadn't known since kindergarten were missing from school. Morning is passing. I came home that day and just sobbed in my room. It didn't seem real, and honestly, it still doesn't. I attended his funeral service. Teachers from elementary school through high school attended. Kids I hadn't seen in the past 5 years were there to support his family and friends. His cousins got up in front of everyone at the funeral and cried while sharing their stories of him. I didn't know him well. Honestly, I just knew his sister when we were younger. We attended the same church together, but it still hurt knowing that he was gone. Someone I knew since I was little. After that, I realized that I had to keep living. Depression had been controlling my life for the years beforehand, and I was close to taking my life on several occasions, but after this, I realized how many people would be devastated, how many people I had to stay here for. It's still hard sometimes, but I don't want to leave this world anymore. I still think about him sometimes. I hope he's in a better place now. Story 23, Second Life, start of the day. I had my first heart attack. I've had 4, and let me tell you what, life is precious to everyone. I don't need anybody's bullshit anymore. I take my second one to make sure my kids understand how to make the right choices and respect life for what it is. Story 24, when I held the hand of a dying woman involved in a double tractor-trailer semi versus a Ford Focus collision. She was missing the back of her head. She was my age and had 2 twin girls. I held her as she took her last breath, begging her to open her eyes. That's when I realized I had lived through an ectopic pregnancy in 2011 that caused me to die twice, and a septic gallbladder in 2013 to be there for this woman. That's when my life began. Story 25, failed suicide attempt, followed by the only person I thought I trusted and respected me. Died a painful, unavoidable death. My second life started when I stopped caring about what the world thinks, came out to family, went back to school, got some good gigs in my industry. Life still has its downs, but pushing through feels rewarding. The username gives it away, but that's not my sole reason for living my life. Just a big part. Gotta chase your dreams and work hard towards what you really believe in. Story 26, got a scary diagnosis. Had a fear that I would never be anything more than I was at that moment, a victim who never really lived, so I cut abusive, narcissistic family out of my life. Got out of an unhappy marriage, lost a bunch of weight, and started working toward the career I wanted. I'm not perfect, but my life is good now, and my body is mostly cooperating. I honestly can't believe who I used to be. Story 27, in January of 2018. I went in to quit my job and simultaneously was fired for being so sick. I originally took the office job because my body couldn't handle working a retail store. I was constantly spraining my wrists and elbows, and my hips and feet hurt a ton. A chiropractor told me my leg bones were sliding up into my hips from standing so much, and probably from lifting heavy things as well. 3 months after quitting my job, at the age of 20, I was diagnosed with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Suddenly, I had an explanation for all of the pain I was in, all of the intestinal problems I had, and how weirdly my bones, joints, tendons move around. People's skin doesn't always hurt to the touch. In the last year and a half, my condition has worsened significantly. At first, I was extremely depressed, spending lots of time in bed, trying to feel better, learning about my body and the horrifying things it can and shouldn't do. So a counselor who was a piece of, did lots of physical therapy that led to a permanent neck injury I'm fighting to get help for. The amount of pain I deal with daily at this point is unimaginable, not possible to wrap my head around. I'm now on a few pain medications, as well as seeing a physical rehabilitation doctor. I enjoy mindfulness meditation when I need to relax. This was the main thing that helped me get out of my depression. Some of my family had a hard time understanding my situation. Some still do. It doesn't matter. I do what I can every day, and am still learning how much is too much. The hardest part about all of this is that I'm 23 years old, female, pretty, and other than my super dark eyes and bruises, I look completely normal. I even have great muscle mass and tone because I'm held together by them. I cannot tell you how many times doctors, even school nurses, didn't give me the care I needed because I look fine at this point. I probably have PTSD from all of it. I developed a massive ulcer as a result of a bad flu when I was 8 years old. I can still remember how my school nurse, MS Swan, was throughout the month it took of missing school and being sick before my mom took me to the hospital. I was mistreated for rheumatoid arthritis from the age of 15 to 17, and all of the medications and self-injections made me sick. I've been told I only had bad gas when I had an orange-sized cyst on my ovary. There's more, but I hate thinking about it. The support online, especially on Instagram, is amazing. There's medical researchers working daily, trying to at least find the gene that causes this. People who also have EDS giving advice to others. Even yoga Pilates instructors with EDS post videos online. Sleep Sanosha is my favorite. People have developed lists of supplements and medications that work for them. Communities try to spread awareness and hope. I suspect this is the only life they'll have, and if it has to be this hard, then I have to be stronger. Even if it's just mentally, anyone who's going through something difficult, no matter what it is, please feel free to comment, vent about it. Story 28, when I turned 21, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was officially considered an adult to pretty much everyone in the world, and life was moving so fast. Made me realize I don't want to look back and regret anything. Now, I work harder, laugh harder, eat healthier, exercise daily, and remember to always enjoy the moment. Story 29, I feel my second life will come in a few years. I'm guessing when I am done studying and getting to work is when I'm hoping things will change a bit. Story 30, on September 18th, my brother-in-law was walking to work. He was hit by a car while crossing the road. We agonized over what was happening while he was in hospital for 2 weeks, not sure if he'd wake up again. We finally decided as a family that given the brain damage, he would not live a quality life, likely vegetative, and would have to pull life support. He was an organ donor, so there's some consolation that he may have saved others' lives. But it was only last week that we watched him pass. I had no idea the body becomes so waxen. He was only 25, the baby brother, our third musketeer. It hurts so much. I think this is my defining moment, but if it doesn't hurt so much, I don't know how to use this to live a more fulfilling life. It just hurts. Story 31, when I woke up in hospital, I had quite minor accident on a bicycle, but I ended up on a very unfortunate place in a coma. The place was behind a slight curve, on a rural road, where speeding 100 kilometers per hour, 60 miles per hour semi-trucks at full capacity were usual sight. I was invisible to them to the very last moment. But some car driver found me before first truck came and drove me to the hospital. I woke up about 3 hours later. I know what happened because the car driver told the doctor, and the doctor told me. No idea who picked me up. The minor part was why I realized how close death is on an ordinary day. Story 32, August 19. I was depressed for a long while still am, and instead of seeking help decided to wallow in self-pity. My wake-up call came when I found that I failed an entire semester, and I realized that if I continued with my free-fall ID, end up in the same place I was afraid of ending up. I am seeking help with my mind, took a semester off, and currently working in a lab. Most days, but IDs say I'm genuinely smiling more nowadays. Story 33, heartbreak, taught me that nothing good happens simply because you want it to. No matter how hard you try, you can still fail, because factors outside your control can have an impact on your life, and you just have to deal with it. Realizing that made me also realize that I only have a limited time on Earth, and that there's a real possibility that I can live my life without finding true love. She's not just going to happen. Story 34, I thought about this a lot lately. I feel like this realization should kick in by now, because even though I feel somewhat healthy, in living a life, I shouldn't be able to survive for long. I drink way too much alcohol at least 3 times a week. I've been smoking for over a decade now, and I don't do anything remotely sporty. And this is not the last few months, this is the last decade. I know I'm killing myself in the long run. I'm just not seeing the symptoms yet, but I also really do not feel any motivation to change that just for me. I sometimes feel like I should get a pet, just to feel responsible for something I love, to guilt-trip myself into caring for myself. As selfish and twisted as this thought is. Story 35, I think very recently it started happening to me. I am slowly realizing this might be it for me. I just enjoy what I can, love those that I love, and enjoy every minute of it. I still struggle with some things, but overall I am content with my life, and I'm happy with the people that I have in my life. They are amazing, and I'm just trying to leave something behind that gives them a sense of who I am. I love my family, and the idea that this might end one day is something that scares me. Even looking at my parents' age is hard to stomach, but that's a part of life. Story 36, after taking shrooms for the first time. Not in a joking way either. Anyone who has done them properly will tell you that it completely changes the way you think about things in the world. I'm a much kinder person, but more importantly, I'm so much more open to trying new things. Of course, please do your own research before trying it. Story 37, some homophobes falsely accused me of some felonies and got me thrown in jail. I was planning my own suicide, but couldn't go through with it because guards, etc. By the time I got out, I decided to finally come out of the closet and give life a try. Story 38, I lived with my schizophrenic, ill ex-boyfriend for a long time. I wasn't working and couldn't drive, and he wouldn't teach me. I also lived too far away to regularly learn from my parents, so getting and having a job was really hard. I think I could have done things differently to be more independent, but I didn't question it much at the time. Toward the end of the relationship, I was more or less prevented from leaving the house at all, because he was afraid that the government was coming for us and stuff. It ended up getting super scary. I was super isolated and had minimal support because we lived so far away and I didn't want people to know what was going on. Anyway, I left him, jumped a few states away, and went from a college dropout with no job who, by the end, was living in a constant state of fear and got into tech support stuff. I have a great job and husband and a wonderful friend group. I think I did a lot of things in that relationship that made my situation worse. And I also don't think he was a bad person, but mental illness is and having limited power in that relationship, I was really at the mercy of it for a while. I feel like a different person, and that was someone else's life. Very weird. Story 39, spring 2018. I started doing cognitive behavioral therapy by listening to Dr. David Burns' books, Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy, and When Panic Attacks on Audible. I learned so much about myself. ID, been living my life in a limited case, designed by my own hand, my parents, and those around me, living fearfully and not being true to myself. I learned so much and still learn new things about myself every day. The key is to listen to them over and over and over and over again, to do the written exercises, and to really persist and persevere with the CBT. Story 42 months ago, when my cousin died. He fell asleep in the car and went to crash against a tree at the road. He had been up all morning because his grandfather had died the same night, and they had to bury him. He was 27 years old and was a civil engineer with a master's degree in bridges. He was getting married in February, and 2 days before his first niece was born. The guy was great. He didn't need to die for someone to let him know that seeing my aunt bury her father and her first child in a single day was devastating. This changed my perspective of a lifetime and how you can stop enjoying a whole life that could be lost in a second. Story 41, I accidentally shot my brother, paralyzing him. It was a huge moment in our lives and certainly changed everything I thought I knew about myself. It's been a second life ever since that happened. Story 42, I always knew this is it, and consciousness can shut off at any point, but this year I learned 7 people from my HS class of 98 are dead. Class of 200 so 3, 5 of us are dead, and that number will probably grow a little every year until maxed out. Story 4317, kidnapped and attempted murder. Now, as a 24-year-old pregnant lady, my macabre sense of humor is uncomfortable for some normies. So I try to keep it to minimum unless I'm with my husband. He finds the unpredictability of my thoughts very funny. Glad I made it this far. Story 44, when I finished my engagement with my girlfriend, she has grown extremely controlling and emotionally abusing. Even her family started to see me like one of their slaves and were getting ready to swallow me into their lives. They were trying to disconnect me from my family completely and use as an ATM and free Uber. I was aware of the situation, but was inexperienced. After some point, they've crossed my red line, and I just canceled everything in a moment. After a long vacation, I started dancing. I had severe dance phobia, meditating, and started and finished my PhD. In the process, I got my home a present for my family, got a car present for my grandma, and completely reborn. Am still single, but my life is much better now. Story 45, I was a typical reckless teenager, young 20-something, and I drove like it. On a long road trip down to Phoenix in the middle of winter in the mountains, I got hit by a blizzard. Because I didn't have much caution, I just kept driving the speed limit while I took a curve too fast and almost slid off the side of a mountain. Yeah, I don't drive like that anymore. Story 46, when I was 21, became very sick and was eventually misdiagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. My doctor told me, kindly but bluntly, that I had less than 5 years to live. With a new husband and baby, that was the last thing we wanted to hear. After over a year of tests and treatments and blood work and hospital bills, they correctly diagnosed me with parvovirus in my bone marrow and were able to treat it correctly. Within another 6 months, I had made a full recovery. Story 47, it didn't yet, but I am very close. I can see the finishing line of my first life, getting closer with every step, making me more anxious to cross it with every second. Although I want to leave behind all the bad things, it makes me terrified. I know they are bad, but at least they are familiar baby steps. Making the good things familiar so I can leave the bad ones behind and don't miss them. Suffering has become such an integral part of my everyday routine that without it I feel lost, I feel terrified, but I'm changing it slowly. Tranquility is an ever-growing part of my daily routine. Washing my face. The few seconds of having my face in the hot cloth are one of the most tranquil in my life. My morning katas and starting Tai Chi routine. Listening to the playlist, natch-clang the sound that lingers in your ear after a loud sound, and the calm before the storm on Spotify. Taking care of my plants, whipping their leaves, humming, cleaning the apartment, waiting for my partner to come home, reading, knitting, go to work, helping people. One day I will cross that line and step into my second life with my own strength and the people around me supporting me, and the meds. I'm getting a dog in November. She's a rescue like me. I'm looking forward to it. Hoping and giving my best, so the first step I take with her by my side will be the first step into my second life. Story 48, new life started after last divorce. Ex was abusive, gaslighting, attempted murder, rape, a joy of a person. When he said he wanted a divorce, I wanted to cry happy tears right there. Ever since, I've been doing more in the last decade than I did in the previous 3. Life is awesome, no matter how down I get. I say it can be worse, and I live through it. Then am no longer sad, just upset with current circumstances and know they're temporary on a slight tangent. It also makes me realize that I can walk away and know that I will still be okay. But really, I'm happy right where I am. Story 49, when I had just turned 15, My mom and I were talking on my bed about all the things we can now do that we've escaped. Putting the Christmas tree up in November was quite high on that list. Story 50. When I was 21, I had open heart surgery. Almost died in the OR that day. I stopped caring what others thought and had fun with other people's feelings. Needs I come first along with my loved ones. I used to think that there will be this one single moment in my life that will change me dramatically for the better. A second life, so to speak. Now I think our lives are more like a yo-yo. There are major events in our lives that will let ourselves shift dramatically, and we can see all the possibilities. But as time goes on, things start to slip, and then the cycle begins. Ultimately, it's up to us to realize those moments and take action when we're in it. I do like to think things just happen in our lives that will kick us into gear and bam, everything's all right. But I think it actually requires us on an individual level to put ourselves in gear when those moments occur. If we just let a yo-yo go, I tell, just head for the bottom.